The Heartless CEO. Written by Yeron G. Chapter 10. Connor grated his teeth when he heard the news from Tony. He instructed him to find out what Nicole's real family is doing. All they know is what it was Nicole's ash that they sprinkled into the sea. A powerful person must be behind all this, sir. I saw Mr. Steven Scout and his grandmother. If that's it, it's just right to hide Nicole's from them. Whoever is the real culprit is what happened to her. Only she can tell. Connor's feelings were replaced by sadness when his attention returned to the sleeping young lady. Her skin color has returned to normal, but she hasn't woken up since they found her. I hear the woman with Mr. Scout is called Danica. Tony continued the story. Connor's eyes narrowed and his fists clenched when he heard the name of the person Nicole last mentioned. Don't leave my child in Danica's hands. Children, Connor said softly, remembering the last word she said when they were talking on the cell phone. Maybe the child that Danica was carrying was also her child. Tony asked the gentleman as she remembered he had seen a child. Connor burst into tears again as he stared at the young lady. He felt very sorry for her, and he couldn't quite imagine how she struggled to survive for her children. She had to leave one of her children because it was necessary. And he admires her because, even when she was weak at the time, she was still able to escape with her child. Even Tony's eyes watered as he stared at the woman lying on the bed. Many pipes and devices are attached to her to extend her life. Some of them were personally bought by his boss and taken to the clinic of his doctor friend. If you can, keep an eye on them and monitor every move of that Danica. Connor orders the young man. Tony also wanted to help his boss, though he agreed. He will give him double his former salary in exchange for his service. Grandma, why don't you want brother to marry Danica? Rita asked her grandmother angrily. Rita was annoyed with her family or still treating her friend coldly even though she lives there with them. They don't seem to appreciate Danica's sacrifice to be a good mother to Daniela. It has been a year since they brought the child home. Her older brother had many excuses, so their marriage was always cancelled. Rita couldn't understand why her brother had become even colder to Danica since the child came into their life. She thought he would give up being a young man for the child. It was as if he remembered something he didn't like whenever he stared at the child. She feels that he loves the child, but he had put a barrier in his heart. It is a memory that prevents Danica from being fully accepted in his life. When the news spread about the sudden appearance of her niece, there was a huge commotion. They had their own idea of who the child's mother is and why Danica is acting up as the mother. That had a big impact on Danica, especially in her ability as a woman. But because of their connection and money, the spreading bad news died down immediately. Everything has been turned upside down and everyone's sympathy is with Danica. Everyone thinks of Danica now as a good woman, which is true and she can prove it. But Rita knew that her friend did not want to be pitied. For everyone to think that her brother is only using her so that his child have someone she calls her mother. Because what our family needs is a boy who will carry our surname. Asuncion's straightforward answer to her granddaughter. Rita could not say anything against her grandmother's answer, even though she knew her attitude. She was still surprised at her heartlessness towards a fellow woman. The family's reputation is still more important to her than Danika's feelings. I know you know Danika's chances of getting pregnant are small. Her grandmother's cold expression first Danika's heart. What she wants to happen is for Danica to give birth to her brother's child before marrying her brother. Her grandmother always makes sure of everything. The relationship between her friend Danica and her brother is like a gamble to her. Glaring, Danica returned to Daniela's room. She heard the conversation between Rita and the old woman. At that time, she wanted to strangle the sleeping child out of anger at the old woman. But she had to hold back and calm down. The child is the only reason she is allowed to remain in Steven's life up until today. Without her, the old woman might have found another woman for the young man. A woman capable of giving her a great grandchild. Why do you have to be a girl, you brat? She cursed the child in a low, irritated voice. Suddenly, the child woke up as if she felt danger for her life. She cried out loud when she saw Danica, as if she saw a scary creature by the way she stared at her. Madame Asuncion hurried into her granddaughter's room when she heard her crying. She was followed by Rita, and they were both worried about the child was crying strangely. What happened to her? Asuncion looked sharp as she glared at Danica. I don't know, she suddenly woke up and cried. Danica replied, while lulling the child to make her stop crying. Lala! The child's hand and foot shook while looking at the old woman. Asuncion's face suddenly softened when she saw the fear on the child's face. She calls her Lala, and that was the first word she uttered when she learned to speak. Give her to me. She took the child from Danica and looked at her with doubtful eyes. Danica's heart was filled with anger when the child suddenly became silent and hugged the old woman's neck tightly. Is our baby hungry? Rita spoke tenderly to the child while stroking her hair. Tata! Rita smiled when the baby called her. Her cute dimple appeared on her cheek when she smiled at her, as if she didn't cry earlier. When she looks at her, and her face just suddenly brightened when she saw her and her grandmother. Are you really playing your role as her mother? Asuncion asked Danica skeptically. Grandma, what kind of question is that? Rita rebuked her grandmother while she couldn't believe her. She felt sorry for Danica when the pain passed through her eyes. Isn't it enough that the real mother of the child is my friend for you to think that I should be good to her? Danica replied to the old woman with resentment. That friend has ruined your trust and relationship, Asuncion reminded her. Don't question my love for a friend, Madame Asuncion. Danica's tongue sharpened. Even if Steven is not the father of the child, I will still treat her as my own child, like Rita. I have also promised Nicole that our friendship will not change no matter what happens. that if we became separated, I will look for her in the best of my ability. Asuncion averted her eyes from the women when her voice trembled. She was deeply hurt that she openly doubted her kindness. Grandma, enough! What you're accusing my friend of is not right. Rita angrily intervened between the two. She hugged Danica and led her out of the room. Asuncion sighed when the two were no longer in front of her. Perhaps she was really gone overboard with showing cold treatment to Danica. Her granddaughter is right. They see nothing wrong with Danica as she only loves them. I'm really sorry. Crying, Rita hugged Danica, who is quietly crying. I'm sorry, because I can't do anything to make Grandma accept you fully. But I'm sure my brother loves you. Don't blame yourself. My infertility is the reason why she can't accept me. Danica covered her face with both palms while crying. Rita felt even more sorry for her friend. As a woman, it is a huge slap on her being to lose the ability to give birth. Don't say that. There's still a chance you could get pregnant. Just follow the doctor's advice, so you're cured. Rita cheered her up. The doctor had always advised Danica on what to do, but she did not want to try because she was afraid of a negative result. She was even more discouraged because her brother did not want to cooperate. Her brother's mind was only on business, and now he also has his daughter to bear in mind. Don't worry, I won't give up now that I have a child to consider. I don't want Daniela to grow up with someone else taking care of her. Danica forced herself to sound cheerful. That's my girl. Rita hugged her friend again, feeling proud. 4 more years passed without a change in Steven's life. Asuncion still secretly sends a woman to seduce her grandson. But to no avail. If she just didn't know about their bloodline, she could say her grandson was impudent. Asuncion is also worried the state of the young man's life because he is getting older. Her great-granddaughter is also growing up, and her parents can't be unmarried forever. She remembered the child's question earlier. Grandma, why do Mommy and Daddy sleep in separate rooms? Asuncion was not surprised by the child's question, but she did not know how to explain it. She's still young and doesn't know anything. She is smart and talkative. Thus she understands what she sees in television shows. Asuncion thought carefully and made a decision. Why did you suddenly think that I should marry Danica? Steven's eyebrows furrowed because of his grandmother's suggestion. She even visited him in his office just for that. Asuncion watched her grandson intently. It seems that her objection to his marriage to Danica was wrong. Even if he didn't want to admit it, she knew that his worldly nature was stuck to Daniela's real mother. That was one of the reasons why he decided to be in a separate room from Danica. Perhaps, if they get married, his sexual vigor will return. Who would have thought that her handsome and wealthy grandson would have a problem with sex life? That's one of the reasons why her grandson is hot-headed and short-tempered. Your daughter is already thinking and wondering why you and Danica sleep in separate rooms. she calmly replied to her grandson. Stephen let out a deep sigh and thought. Even though he lacks time for his daughter, he loves her so much. But he didn't want to stare at her for a long time because he only remembers her mother. And when he recalls the night something happened between them, he became even more disgusted to look at another woman's body. Even when he is drunk, Danica is not able to attract him. For the sake of your daughter, Asuncion said when the young man just became silent. I'll do what you think is good for Daniela. Asuncion smiled at her grandson and was happy with his decision. He had never failed, even though he matured too early because he has to catch up and learn how to manage their family business. When she remembered the death of Stephen's parents, she took a deep breath. Perhaps it is time to reciprocate the kindness Danica has brought to her family. Rita jumped in joy when she heard from her grandmother that there would be a gathering next month. This isn't just a dream, right? Rita's eyes twinkled with happiness as she stared at her grandmother. Why wouldn't she be happy? Finally, what she had long hoped for Danica and her brother would happen. Danica doesn't know what to do in front of Stephen and Madame Asuncion. She feels that she is now floating in the clouds after hearing that there will be an announcement to the public about her and Stephen's wedding. She turned to the young man. He is looking like usual, but she no longer cared about how the young man felt about their marriage. What matters is that she will be the legal wife and a part of the Scout family. To be continued.